I'm a lot more relaxed. I'm a lot more confident in who I am as a person, as a father, as a husband. I know my worth in my role,
Mm.
and I don't need to be vindicated by other people with the perception of what my worth is. So, yeah, I'm expanding into other areas of my professional life and thinking about other things that maybe I want to do and that I'm good at, and exploring some of those avenues. And that's something that I would never have done prior to the mentorship.
Imagine discovering a pathway that cuts through the noise of trying to heal, to instead offer you a clear, revolutionary initiation into your most connected, abundant, loved, and purpose-filled self. A place where your dreams transform into personal reality. I'm Allura Halliwell, founder of the Consciousness Method, and it's with deep gratitude that I connect with beautiful souls who have already experienced this transformative method firsthand. They'll share how it has profoundly changed their lives and led them into inner truth. Hello, Brendan. So happy you could be here today.
Thank you, Allura. Great to be here.
I'm really excited to dive in with you on your journey through the mentorship and through the wounding and the pain and all the rest of it. But before we begin, are you okay just to give a little bit of a summary about how life was and how you felt before we began the journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I guess life for me before the journey, particularly the last probably 2 years prior to the journey, was one of the worst periods of my life, just from a mental health, just a little bit lost in life. I sort of hit that age, being 51, where I started to really think about where life was heading, where I wanted it to head. And yeah, I was a bit of a shell of a person, to be honest. And then I came across your mentorship program. So I'm a firm believer in things happen for a reason. And when I started your mentorship program, it changed everything for me.
It's been such a great journey together. So thank you, Brendan,
Mm.
for coming on the journey. What do you think in the beginning stages was one of the, or a couple of the key pieces that you began to realize about yourself and about who you are that you were maybe missing before that helped to connect some dots?
Yeah, I guess my life was so busy and chaotic that I never really took the time to have that time for me and sort of that self reflection. So I was just living the best that I could live, but not really enjoying what I was doing. Sort of didn't really have that sort of perspective on life in general. I was very closed off, like I had the blinkers on, and it was just a mundane routine that really revolved around my work, and everything was sort of centered on, I'd put basically everything into my job and not a lot into my family, which I started to really realize. But just, I guess, initially was just at that point where I couldn't see that. And I thought that everything was okay and I would just survive, put everyone else before me. And, as long as they're happy, I'm happy, but I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we began, we started with some of those deep processes around beginning to kind of meet yourself again, I suppose, because you're right. There was that sort of maybe like a staleness or a sense of just looping on the same things, not knowing there was a way through that. And
Mm.
some of the early processes, we kind of really began to meet other parts of you, younger parts of you, and really connect dots to why you were operating the way you were in your current reality. What was that part of the process like for you?
It was pretty confronting. It was very emotional. It was, yeah, sort of going back to my childhood and sort of discovering a lot more about myself and I guess how I was shaped as an individual. And yeah, it was difficult to begin with because I guess for me, it's sort of things that you don't want to sort of backtrack on too much. And you kind of, that it's there, but you don't want to confront it and you don't want to sort of open up and face that fear. But as soon as I did, it changed everything for me. It just opened up a whole new person, really, that I kind of knew was there, but just couldn't encapsulate. So, yeah, it was a game changer. Absolutely.
And in respect to that, recognizing some of the deeper wounding patterns, the core wounds of the unworthy, unloved, unknown. How did that framework maybe help you understand some of those childhood experiences and how they'd been repeating unconsciously in your life?
Yeah, I think it really sort of came to light when reflecting on my self-worth, which was something that really resonated for me. And I guess the experiences that I had growing up sort of led me to how I react and how I process things in my everyday life. A lot of judgment placed on myself about not being good enough in certain situations, whether it be at home, my kids, my wife, my job, and really recognized was that my self-worth, I didn't have to base that on how good I was at my job
Mm.
or how good I was as a father or what I perceived that I wasn't doing well. And as soon as I had that realization, which probably came halfway through the mentorship, I think the first part of the mentorship, I was sort of getting used to the terminology and just that different way of thinking. But when the light bulb, I guess for me, kind of went off, it really went off quite heavily. And yeah, it got me to a point where I was so reliant upon pleasing others, being the yes man, not sort of saying no to certain situations that I wanted to say no to, and judging like I mentioned before, judging my self worth based on the results that I was getting at work, which was, now in hindsight, completely ridiculous because that's definitely not a reflection of me. So now I control the controllables. And yeah, it's just really shaped my future existence in a different perspective.
Yeah, because you had this amazing breakthrough around the work circumstance where it was almost like from one week to the next, you really kind of recalibrated your whole identity and being in that space. Do you remember that week when you kind of had that shift of awareness, or maybe happened over a few weeks for you? But from my perception, it was kind of this
Mm.
one week it was that, and the other week it was the next one. And then it was just like everything had shifted in that. Do you remember sort of what was the core realization or what you did to kind of actualize that shift, I suppose?
Yeah, I think during the mentorship, there were a couple of situations that's not great personal situations, but was sort of great from a point of view that had happened at that particular time when I was going through this journey, when I could really put into perspective what was important and what was not so important. And understanding that, yes, whilst my job is important, it's not the be all and end all of my existence. So when my mum was ill, and for me, taking time out of work, I felt really guilty. And I felt that there'd be that sort of spotlight on me. And how can I do it for myself? But how can I phone the boss and tell him that I need some time off? But having gone through a better part of the mentorship, I didn't hesitate in doing what I needed to do for both myself and my family. So, yeah, so there were key moments. And I think it was doing the meditations, the homework, just sort of for me writing everything down and sort of looking at it and then visualizing it and then sort of realizing sitting in my own space because I was a big social media, anything to distract me. But that sort of stuff was really getting to the core of my wound, I guess, and keeping that wound alive. But as soon as I sat in my own space and really understood who I was, what I was doing, yeah, that all shifted at that point in time. So,
Yeah. And how would you say life feels now in terms of what you're creating and what you're feeling and what you're doing?
yeah, life's really great at the moment. I still have those moments where, you sort of see yourself falling back into some areas, which I guess happens for everyone. And I kind of sit back, reflect on it, just sit in my own space without distraction. But yeah, like it's been a massive shift for me. Like it's little things that I'm noticing now that I never noticed before. And it might seem a little bit odd to some people, but just when I do a lot of driving for my job and I'm noticing like a house or something that I've driven past a million times and I'm like, I've never noticed that before. The next door neighbour's painting their fence, I've never noticed all that stuff before. So I guess for me, I'm a lot more relaxed. I'm a lot more confident in who I am as a person, as a father, as a husband. I know my worth in my role
Mm.
and I don't need to be vindicated by other people with the perception of what my worth is. So Yeah, I'm expanding into other areas of my professional life and thinking about other things that maybe I want to do and that I'm good at and exploring some of those avenues. And that's something that I would never have done prior to the mentorship. It's always been, this is your job. You've been in that industry for 30 years. That's all you're good at. Brendan, just stay in your lane. Whereas now I'm not prepared to stay in my lane. There's lots of lanes. So yeah, it's been awesome.
I love that. There's lots of lanes. It's so true. That's like when
Mm,
the possibilities start opening up and the noticing is just speaking to a greater level of consciousness, a greater level of awareness, and you're tuning in and switched on and getting more feedback and having more awareness. And you're right, there will be things that will continually need to be processed just as part of
yeah.
our evolution. But do you feel you have the tools now to go in and look at those things and assess what's going on in those spaces now?
Yeah, I do. I do. And I think a big part of that for me was particularly with the mentorship material. It took me probably halfway through to really sort of understand what I was doing, but I took the time to go back and reread things. And sometimes if it took me 3 or 4 times to read a certain part of the mentorship program and sort of go, okay, I now understand that. And then obviously with our weekly calls, getting that further understanding and listening to other people's experiences and really resonating with what they're going through and sort of learning from other people as well.
That's so powerful. And I think you're right because it is almost like learning a new language. It's not one of those things you just read and go, oh, I get that. It's like, oh, how does this actually really work? And how does it really land in me? Which is
Yeah.
part of the process, I think, because you're right. It takes a minute to really get your head around those ideas and concepts and live them, begin to embody them.
Mm.
It's just your commitment to that was amazing. If there's any, particularly men out there that might be feeling a bit stuck in their level of self-worth or their career or maybe their relationships that are thinking, this work seems a lot like, why would I do this at this point? How's that going to change things for me? What
Yeah.
would you say to them?
Yeah. If certainly they had the opportunity to integrate with you, Allura, and sort of do your mentorship. Yeah, look, it's been life changing for me, and it's still a journey. So, like I've referred to before, I'm still working things out as I go. But I've even noticed now, like I can see wounding in other people, and I've got work colleagues that I see it on a daily basis. And I think there's lots of people out there that could certainly benefit, particularly men. I think as a man, you kind of a lot of the time you don't want to express your emotion. And, I guess you feel that your role is to protect your family and do everything at the expense of yourself, which is crazy. But I can see that because that's how most men kind of think. They think that they've got a certain role, but it's okay to cry. It's okay to open up. It's okay to be vulnerable. And the thing that really resonated with me, particularly working with our weekly sessions, was I didn't feel like people were judging me. We're all in the same boat to different degrees of experience, but there was that mutual respect and love as well. There was a lot of love in those weekly calls as well. So I think there are people in those calls that I will stay in touch with. And I think I need that personally for me, just to still have that connection, be accountable, share experiences, share the highs, share the lows, and continue on life's journey. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Brendan. Thank you for your time. And yeah, I think just if any of the men out there are hearing this are thinking, is this for me or not? It's really worth just exploring because we don't have to stay stuck in any of these programs or any of these limitations.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you so much, Brendan.
Thanks, Allura. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend this time with you, and to say thank you, I'd like to share with you 3 beautiful meditations to explore your core wounding and a collection of masterclasses. You'll find these in your show notes. And if you feel the synergy to this path, know that it is available to you also.